It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
It's showtime. What's happening, everybody? Yes, the Geno Jones Show. Hey, I'm coming to you live, and no storms in the area. So I know Satan is busy, but we rebuke you, buddy. Not today. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central, 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast. Please subscribe to the Geno Jones channel right here on YouTube. You and everybody that you know and don't know, everybody that you like, love, can't stand, hate, doesn't matter. Strangers, aliens, tell them all. The baddest show in the business right here, the Geno Jones Show. Once again, subscribe to my channel. Please like and share this and every episode, and go back and binge watch every episode. All right, my special guest today, R&B star, Margo Thunder. She is coming with the thunder. She's been doing her thing, so I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun conversation. She's just got a fun personality and she's been on stage with some of the biggest and best, so I'm sure she's got some great stories of being on stage with some of the icons and legends in the music industry. But speaking of history, today is the day. Yes, finally, justice is served in Associate Justice, Supreme Court Judge. They call them Associate Justices. Justice Kentanji Brown Jackson. Today, finally, she was confirmed. The Senate, now, see, what a lot of you all don't know is the president, he may pick who he wants to be on the Supreme Court, but it's the senators that decide who gets to sit on the Supreme Court. That's why you all got to vote in every election. That's why you got to vote in this midterm election. I'm telling you all, please, and I'm going to go back to this in a second, why voting and why voting in the midterms and why the Supreme Court, because I know a lot of folks hear the Supreme Court and they tune out. Oh, the Supreme Court. I get it, because it hadn't been a whole bunch of black people. There's only been let's see. We've had one black man, Justice Thurgood Marshall, and then we had a dude that had melanin that's still there, Clarence Thomas. All skin folk and kinfolk, I'm saying. So we've had two of African descent. We've had 108 white men. We've had 4 white women. We have one Latina woman, Judge Sonia Sotomayor, who's sitting on the bench right now. And finally, after 233 years, it only took 233 damn years to finally get a black woman on the Supreme Court bench. That in alone that's inexcusable. It's shameless, but better late than never at all. Once again, I want to congratulate Justice Kentanji Brown Jackson. She was voted to be on the Supreme Court, 53-47, just in case you're into numerology or you like to know stuff like that. I just wanted to pass it on to you. So now, you might be watching me at home, maybe you're watching in the hair salon or the nail salon or in the barber shop, wherever, on your phone, on your tablet. You say, all right, Geno, come on, man. Why should black folks care about the Supreme Court? You know, what does it mean? How does that affect my life? How does it affect your life? Okay, well, a couple things. Let's talk about it real quick, all right? Why is the Supreme Court important and who sits on it? Because this summer, women, unfortunately, are about to lose their right to choose what to do with their body. They're about to lose their freedom to decide whether or not they want to terminate a pregnancy for whatever reason, because it's their body. And at the end of the day, women should determine, anybody should determine what happens to your body. Because like I've told you before, if men got pregnant and if men had to deliver babies and go through vaginal births and C-sections and breech babies and tubal pregnancies and all, humans would be extinct. Men, we as men, we can't stand to be constipated, let alone childbirth. The thought of it, men would pass out. Can't take it. I'm telling you, can't take it. We might be able to bench press 500 pounds, but delivering a 10-pound baby, men couldn't take it. They'd pass out. So Nobody should be telling women what to do with their body, as far as I'm concerned, except for that woman. At the end of the day, it's her body. But women are about to lose that right. Now, keep in mind, women with a lot of money, even when abortion was technically illegal, women with money they were able to get abortions. They could fly over to Canada, go where they could hire a doctor to come to their house because they had that kind of money. Now, poor women, unfortunately, some of them, somehow they were able to get abortions, but they were getting what they call the back alley abortions. And many, not just the child, the unborn child, but many of those women died in horrible ways. So this is only what's going to happen. It's only going to hurt poor women like it did before. If the Supreme Court decision, Roe versus Wade, that decision was back in 1973, so which made abortion legal in America. So this obsession with wanting to go back to the 1950s, or in a lot of cases, the 1850s, but please understand, so they're coming for women's rights. They're going to come for you. So first, they'll come to make abortion legal. Then they're going to say, well, wait a minute now. You shouldn't be able to take that birth control pill because you're killing this unborn fetus, or you can't use whatever, like, I don't know. I know back in the day it was the IUD. Whatever form of contraception, they're going to make that illegal. Then they're already coming for your voting rights. They want to determine, they don't want accurate history to be taught. So if you teach slavery, well, we can't teach that because that's going to make these little white children feel bad about themselves. No, it's not going to make them feel bad about themselves. It might make them feel bad about what their ancestors did, which is a good thing, because hopefully they will feel bad about the horrors of slavery and lynching and murder and rape, and then they'll make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that their ancestors did. So that's a good thing. But a lot of these states, they're passing laws. They don't want that to be taught. They don't want the truth, the full truth about American history to be taught. Why is that? Because they want to be able to take this country back to those days of Jim Crow. Hell no, we won't go back to that. But it can happen if you do not get out and vote. And what happens, judges, now, let me just explain something. There were times when the Supreme Court agreed with laws that were passed in the states that said the original Constitution said black people were not even full humans. They were 3/5 human. There was a Supreme Court ruling, Plessy versus Ferguson, that basically said there's no black man that has any rights that any white man has to honor and observe and dignify. None. That you as a black person, you don't have no rights that any white person has to obey and go by and pay attention to. Yes, the Supreme Court agreed with that. The Supreme Court agreed with segregation being legal and Jim Crow laws being legal in America. The Supreme Court signed off on that at one time. So be very careful. Don't think that this country can't moonwalk back to that, because there's a lot of folks in this country that wants to moonwalk their ass back to where people that look like me were not even full humans. Now, you're not a full human. We'll give you a 3/5 human. But you don't have any laws that any white person has to obey or observe. And we have a right to legally discriminate against you. You can't move in this neighborhood. You can't buy a house here. You can't get insurance. You can't get a mortgage. We don't want you in this school. So that's why it is so important for you to vote, because the people that sit on the Supreme Court can make the decisions to take this country forward or backwards 50 to 150 years. That's real talk. Just wanted to let you know why you need to make sure that you vote this midterm election. So let me segue and bring my guest on. My guest began her recording career when she was 13. She was just a baby out there on them stages doing her thing. Speaking of stages, she has shared the stage with some of the legends, I mean true legends and icons, from the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin, to the queen of kicking them high-heeled shoes off, Miss Patti LaBelle, Eric Benet, and so many more. I'll let her share her story. She's got a brand new album. She's got a brand new music. She's got an energetic, vivacious personality. And I'm bringing her on camera right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to welcome my guest, Miss Margo Thunder, to the Geno Jones Show. Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I love the knowledge that you're giving. I mean, it's just great hearing all these things. Some of the things you were talking about, I forgot about. It just turned on a light, because we soon forget, but Trump kind of put us back.
Oh, didn't he?
50 years.
Oh man, listen, I call him Orange Hitler. He was trying to take us back to the 1850s. He was like, listen, I don't want y'all to be able to do nothing but just go sit your ass in that corner and shut up and don't have no rights, no rules. And people think that I'm like being like overly dramatic or I'm overstating it. It's like, Geno, that can't happen. Why can't it happen? It happened before, and if we don't vote and participate, it can happen again. So
look, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, I don't have to tell you. See, I grew up in Chicago.
And that's what I'm saying. So like Boston, when I was in a group in the 80s called 9.9. And when we had a record called All of Me for All of You. And so when that record came out and it just blew up, every place we went, they swore we were from Baltimore. They act like Black people didn't exist in Boston. So every time we would go on a television show, we're like, Baltimore's own 9.9. We're like, no, we're from Boston, Massachusetts. And so when you talk about racism, trust me, I grew up in the 60s when,
oh wow,
when all the rioting and all the, when Martin Luther King was killed, so I do understand, all of this that you're talking about. And, it's a great day to have a Black justice again. Because I heard you talking about Thomas.
Yes, yeah, I'm glad you went there. We're gonna talk about your music, but listen, I wasn't gonna let you get off the show. I just wanted to get your perspective and how do you feel? Like I said, it only took 233 years to finally get a Black woman on the Supreme Court, which is a damn shame, but better late than never at all. So, how did it make you feel when you heard the news? How does it make you feel as a Black woman?
I feel great, you know what I'm saying? Because like I tell people, if you live long enough, you'll get to see some things. And like I said, I started my music career in the 70s, but I started singing back in the 60s, so for me to watch all these changes go around, it's a great feeling to know that this is happening. And it's a shame that we got to say, oh, we finally, I'm so tired of the first Black this, the first Black that. I mean, we have been, creating and, like when you talk about slavery and you talk about music, just all the music that Black folks have created from the blues to jazz to, Southern soul, all these different genres of music that, we were the first rock and rollers, let it be told. You know what I'm saying? But we never get a chance to, they never talk about that part of it. So when you're talking about teaching Black history, when I was a kid, I got kicked out of Black history. I mean, I got kicked out of regular history class on a regular because, I got tired of sitting there and listening to a teacher tell me how Christopher Columbus discovered America. And I asked my teacher one day, I said, how do you discover something that's already here?
Oh, see, you said the same thing I had said for years. I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
How did that happen? Just like me saying to my teacher, I discovered your house, so I own it.
Listen, I've been saying that for decades. It's like, wait a minute, how can you discover? I can't just walk into your house and say, this is nice. I just discovered this. Yeah, you got to go.
I like this.
Yeah, wait.
I'm going to take this.
Where do they do that at? Unfortunately, they were doing it here in America, but wow.
Right.
So you talk about the 60s, you were in Boston. When they had, the whole
for me, busing. I got saved because when I was in junior high, I was getting ready to be bused to South Boston High School where they did not take the Black folks at all. We couldn't even go to South Boston. If you worked over there, it was like the sundown at time. If you weren't out of there by a certain time, you were getting beat up. And so for me, music saved me because, like, I had records, like, and like I said, I signed to Capitol actually when I was 11 years old. My record came out when I was 13. And so for me, after my Capitol days, I'm still going to school and got a major record deal. And, none of my teachers even knew that I sang. The kids knew who I was. And so, like, the last day before I was getting ready to go into high school, I just happened to, we were in an assembly room, and I just happened to be looking out the window, and I saw these two people getting ready to make out. And I said, "Touch me in the morning." And my teacher turned around like, "Who is that?" And all the kids like, "You don't know who she is? She's a singer." And he made a phone call, which got me into the first music high school in Boston. So I missed being bused just by that quick.
Wow.
So, so like I understood. And then my brothers, they were bused. And I was watching PBS one day, and they had this documentary on busing. And there's my brother, because he had a big afro, and the white boys used to try to, snatch him by the hair to, So, so I'm saying I lived all that stuff. And so for me, like, even being an artist, as they call me, an old school artist, and that's good because I think old school is good school, because I talk to a lot of, younger artists, and I'm like, look, if you don't know where you've been, you sure enough you're not going to know where you're going. So you need to reach back. So to see this woman become, a justice, it's we take for granted now these kind of things, which we shouldn't, because you're talking about how could somebody tell me what to do with my body? It's like, if I were a rape victim, you mean I got to keep this baby because a law says so? Right. I don't think so.
Or a teenager that was a victim of incest. And like I said, Margo, listen, if God could just play a cruel trick for just like 9 months and just say, okay, I'm gonna flip this. All right, fellas, I'm gonna let y'all get pregnant and then have the babies. I guarantee you, if we were the ones that had to deliver the child, no. First of all, humans would be extinct. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm a man, I'm telling you. Because pain.
Look, I have 6 brothers. I'm one of 9 children. And I have 6 brothers, and I would watch my brothers, tough guys get a little scratch, they're crying. Oh, so trust me, I know.
Hey, listen, 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 Margo, because I do stand-up, and I tell this joke all the time, and I have people rolling except for when they're eating. I say, listen, y'all, if you're eating, excuse me, but we talking about men and our pain tolerance. Men can't stand to be constipated. We sweating, crying. So a 10-pound baby, forget about it.
Did you imagine?
No. God knew what he was doing.
So,
Cause
so I get all that, and for me, music has played a big role in all, like when you go back to the 60s and those marches, and like for me, when the Black Lives Matters thing, when I went out and I walked with these young people and I talked to them like, look, we fought for things. You guys have to realize that the struggle has to go on with you. Yes. And you're in a better position now because, like, we didn't have internet that we could look up this and look up that. So, I feel like young people are in a better position to do things than we were, It's like we had one phone in my house growing up, and that was the one with that long cord that reached all the way.
And it take you 5 minutes to dial a number, especially right? If it had a lot of 8s and 9s, right?
Exactly. And so, I just look at the things that are going on in the world. So, like I said, I've lived long enough to see a lot of things and been blessed. I got to bring that up because everything and anything that I do can't happen without God in my life. Absolutely. Doing what he did.
No, listen, that
because my mother and them told me I could sing before I could talk.
Wow.
They told me anything I heard on the radio, I would just sing it back in perfect pitch. So, I know that wasn't me. That was a
It was
gift from, up
from God.
above. And
Absolutely.
so,
What,
and that for me, like getting into the whole music side of like what we're going to talk about, like I said, in the 60s, how my career began is that, my mother heard me singing. I didn't even realize that I could sing. And she heard me singing to an Aretha Franklin song, because when I heard Aretha Franklin's voice, I was just blown away. So I used to sit by the speaker and try to imitate or do whatever it was that I thought she was doing. And I guess I must have been doing it pretty well, because my mother heard it and she entered me into a contest. And with this talent show that I entered into, if you won 3 times, you got to go to the Apollo Theater.
wow.
And so I won. And the night that I went, Aretha Franklin was the headliner. And that's what I'm saying. Look at God.
Wow.
And so, I get there.
So was this at the Apollo?
Yes.
Wow.
She was, I was on that amateur night thing.
Wow.
And she was the headliner. And so the people that took me, that I won this they snuck me upstairs so I could get a chance to see her. And after I saw Aretha Franklin, I never looked back, because, like I said, I didn't even think I was going to be a singer. I thought I was going to be a carpenter building stuff, because I was always fascinated with the way things were put together. But after I saw her playing and singing, I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I never looked back from that age of 9 or whatever it was that I won that contest. And as from there, some people saw me, and I got signed to Capitol at 11 years old.
So let me ask you. Let me jump in and ask you about Aretha. So, do you remember? Did she share any words of wisdom? What did she?
Oh my goodness! What did she? So this is so crazy, because I go to the Apollo, I see her, and then my time to come on stage, I get up and sing "Bridge Over Troubled Waters," her version, and I'm singing it. And she came out on the balcony, is like, who's that little girl? And she asked them to bring me to her, and she gave me words of encouragement. I met my hero that day. So it was just like, after that, I could do no wrong.
Do you remember what those words were of encouragement?
She just told me how she really just thought I was a great little singer, and to just keep practicing and doing whatever it was that I was doing. Right. And, and my thing was, I think I learned how to sing by listening to you, wow. And I'm sure a lot of people probably told her that, and so from there, like I said, I got signed to Capitol. The first record I had was called Soul of a Woman in the Disguise of a Little Girl. Because my voice was so big, they didn't know what to write for me. Wow. And so I also, back then, I did a remake of a Soul Survivors song called Expressway to Your Heart. And that song kind of blew up, more than the first one. And my third single had Luther Vandross singing background on it.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I think oh, there you go. It said no signal. I lost it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm good. It just dropped out momentarily.
Okay.
Don't pay attention.
And so it's so funny, because like I go in the studio, and I was upset this day, because my first, I had a singles deal with Capitol. I didn't have an album deal.
Okay.
And so my first couple of singles I did out here in LA, where I live. And the second set of singles, I went to New York. And I worked with a guy named Tony Sylvester that used to be in the group The Main Ingredient. Okay. And so he produced me. And so I'm in the bathroom, I'm upset, I'm crying. I don't want nobody to see me crying. And so they're like, we need to get Margo out here to do a reference vocal. So, they come knock on the door. You okay? Yeah, we need you to do a reference vocal. So I said, okay. So as I'm walking to the studio, I hear all this singing. I'm like, what is this? And I'm listening. I said, I need to be singing background for these people, So I walk in the room, and, they're like, okay, we want to just lay down a reference vocal. And the song was called From Her Arms Into Mine. And so, I start singing the song. Everybody in the studio starts crying, and I'm looking around like, what's going on? And Luther Vandross walked up to me and said, don't you ever change anything about you.
Wow.
But get it though, at that time, I didn't know who Luther Vandross was because he was actually a session singer.
Yes.
He was singing background for Roberta Flack and, David Bowie doing all that. And then he had a commercial, a coffee commercial that went, "Chock full of nuts is that heavenly coffee." So I had no idea who he was. And then years later, like after that session, I remember going home telling my mother, "Oh, I met this guy, Luther." And he's like, "Great." She's like, "Luther Ingram?" I'm like, no, that's not his name. I can't remember. And so years later, Never Too Much comes up. And I said, that's the Luther Vandross song background. and so he happened to come to Boston to do a concert. So I went to the concert. And I went backstage and I'm thinking, he's not going to know who I am all these years later. I walked through the door, he goes, "Margo Thunder." And it just blew me away, And so like for me, music has, before all that, as I had these records, there was a club in Boston called the Sugar Shack. And I used to open for like Billy Paul, the Stylistic, Blue Magic, Tavares. I had like all these role models. And then one night I'm there and Betty Wright walks in.
Wow.
And so she walks up to me and she starts singing one of my songs and she sounds exactly like me. She said, "I was just talking about you to my mama today." And she said, "Hey, my brother plays guitar in your band." And I was like, and her brother told me this, but I didn't believe he was her brother. I just thought, okay, they got the same last name. And so Betty Wright from that day, and I had to have been like 13 or 14, she started mentoring me from that day until the day she passed away.
Wow. Man, you have been blessed so many incredible mentors. So then what would you attribute, because you were talking about how some of the new schoolers, some of the young bucks and coming up and the young girls coming up talking about, hey, you're old school, but it's like, y'all want to be old school one day. So what would you attribute, what's the key to longevity? I know you got to do things like reinvent yourself. Obviously, you've taken care of your voice. So what would be your key and your secret to your longevity?
Well, I'm telling you, for me, first of all, like I said, I've been blessed to be able to do this. The other thing is that, I grew up singing in nightclubs like a little kid, going into clubs, like I said. And, I saw all those crazy things that went on with drugs and alcohol. And as a kid, like my mother used to say, "Look, when you get in that club, you get up there, sing your set, get your butt off the stage, say hi to the people, get back to the dressing room." So I didn't mingle and do all that stuff. So I've never done drugs. I never drank because I saw how foolish people act. I said, well, if this is what that does, I don't need that. So like for me, that was the first thing that, that I was just kind of straight and narrow when it came to that. But I also practiced what it was that I was doing. It's like, and like I said, I've been through every era where, like I started recording when they were using orchestras and background singers. Then in the 80s, they started bringing in synthesizers and drum machines. And, like now, I don't even have to be in the same studio to record a song with somebody. So, I can just send my vocals from, I have a setup. I got, my setup right here, that I can sing my vocals and, send them off and I don't have to be there. But what I tell young people is just, make sure you practice, because auto-tune is not always going to be able to save you, because once you get out there live on the road and, these people want to hear what they heard on the record and you can't reproduce that, So like for me, you got some problems. And so for me, for a while, like when I got kind of disillusioned with music, I started vocal coaching like young people. And, I had some people was like, well, can't I just sing this and then they could just fix it in the studio? I said, not working with me, because I'm not going to put my name on it that says vocals produced by Margo Thunder and they're auto-tuned up and you can't sing. So for me,
go finish that thought, because I want to go back to something you were just talking about. I think it's pivotal. But go ahead and finish your thought.
No, I was just going to say, so for me, I just made people, if you're going to work with me, we're going to work. You're going to know what you're doing.
So Margo, you say you got disillusioned. Why? What happened?
You know, because like I said, so from the 70s going into the 80s, I was in the 9.9 group and we had this song, All of Me, and that song blew up. We were on American Bandstand, Solid Gold. We did it, Soul Train, every show that you can think of, we did. And then, you know, we had like like you just, like they say, be careful how you treat people when you're going up, because those same people might be the ones you're meeting coming down. And, you know, luckily for me, I've never had this ego that, you know, all I ever wanted to do was make good music. And so like when that kind of fizzled out, you know, I put together in the 90s, I put together another girls group. The girls group was called Lady Soul. And we sung one of the songs on the first Sister Act movie, and it was called "If My Sister's in Trouble." You know, we got a gold plaque for it, and you know, and it looks like, okay, here we go. We're going again, and then all of a sudden, you know, it just kind of fizzled out. So you know, I just kind of felt like, okay, I've been doing this, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s. Maybe it's time for me to kind of step back, and you know, and that's when I started doing the vocal lessons, because I just was getting disillusioned, because I felt like, man, I'm putting out good music and you know, but nothing's coming back, you know. And so in 2010, you know, I was working on other people's projects, because I did a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Like I did a show for Robert Guillaume, and I sung the theme song. The song was called Rescue Me, which was an old song, but the show was called Pacific Station. Then I did a few movies. I did like Sister Act, I did Eddie. Then I did another movie called Eddie and the Cruisers. And things just kind of was at a standstill. So I started writing songs. I said, well, maybe I should write for other people. So I started writing, and I worked with this young girl. She was from Foxborough, Massachusetts. And her name is JoJo. And as a little white girl, she was about 11 years old, but this girl can blow. So I wrote some songs for her, and she got signed to a record deal. And so I said, so maybe I'm supposed to be behind the scenes. So like, at one point, Ken Wilson used to work for J Records, and his sister managed 9.9. He called me up one day. He said, Margo, I got this song for you. I'm telling you, if you sing this song, it's going to bring you back. I said, okay, let me hear the song. So this goes on and on for a few months. And then finally, he left J Records and came to Warner Brothers, and he moved back to LA. And I just walked in his office one day. I said, kid, play me this song. And he played me the song, and the song was called Mistreated. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to come back, that's the kind of song I want to come back singing, because it just tells women, if you don't love yourself, how can you expect somebody else to love you? You got to love you first. So, you know, it just tells them, get your hair done, you know, get your nails done, buy yourself something to wear. Don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. And so I said, okay, I want to do this song, but I can't do this song unless I go back to Boston. He's like, what? I said, I got to get the ladies from 9.9 to sing on this record. So I fly back to Boston. You know, we hadn't sung together 7, 8 years. And we're in the studio like, boy, what's this going to be like? As soon as we started singing, bam, everything just went in the, you know, and it probably took us about an hour and a half to do the song. I fly back, I play him the song. He's like, dang, Margo. He said, this song is so good. We can't just do the one song. So I said, well, I have a bunch of songs I've been writing. He said, well, let me hear them. So I sent him like a little demo tape. He said, that's your album right there. And so I did this album. He said, what do you want it to be called? I said, I want it to be called R&B 101, because I feel like the art of R&B is being lost.
Yep.
Because R&B, we told stories, you know, and like where the music was going, it was like we didn't know anything about making love. All we knew how to hit it from the back, hit it from the side. You know what I'm saying? And so nothing to your imagination. So with this album, that I put together, the R&B 101. I just took it back old school. I wrote a song for my mother called One of Nine because I couldn't understand how this one woman raised 9 children by herself.
Wow.
And then I did a remake of People Bryson's Feel the Fire. And people called me and said, that's the best version of my song that I've heard.
Wow.
And, you know, and that for me just took me over the top for you know, because Stephanie Mills had done it. People did it. Steffi did it again with Teddy Pendergrass.
Yes,
and for me to, you know, do my version of it, and for him to say that it was one of the best versions. And then I went to see him in concert. He said, you're going to hear something familiar. He started doing the arrangement that I did of his song in his show.
Wow. Wow.
You know.
So let's fast forward this to 2022, because you got some new music that is fire. Yeah. And you got a new single. And the one before that, the title was so cute. So I want you to tell all my viewers about this new music.
So after the R&B 101 again, nothing. So I'm like, okay. And then I'm on Facebook one day, and this guy, Big Rob, you know, he's hit me up and he's like, hey, Margo, you're one of the only R&B singers left, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, at this point, I went and got a job. I was head of security at a movie studio.
Get out of here.
Right?
What?
No.
Wow.
I see Kerry Washington every day. I saw Viola Davis because they were shooting How to Get Away with Murder and the one that Kerry Washington did. And so like, and none of them knew what I did. They just, okay, officer, you know, blah, 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 blah. I had a regular job.
Wow.
And so he just kept on. And so I gave him my number, and we talked, and he talked about how Bootsy Collins gave him his start. And then he went on to be in the Zap band for like 25 years. And so, you know, we were talking. So he's like, you know, we need to do something. I said, yeah. So then one day he calls me up and he said, Margo. I said, yeah. He said, God told me I'm supposed to write your next hit record. And I didn't know him. I said, if God said this, I'm coming. So I flew to Ohio, and, you know, we recorded the song that's out now first. And then we did Paper or Plastic.
Okay.
And so like, I get there at 3:00 in the morning. He's like, I'm going to let you rest up and I'll pick you. Oh, no, we're going to start this now. I flew all this way. So I put the backgrounds down, and the next day I came and I sang the vocals. And so, you know, I fly back home to LA. Few more months go by. I don't hear nothing from him. I'm at my job, so I'm not thinking nothing about it. He calls me. He said, it's time to put that record out. I said, what record? At this point, it's 3 months. Which one? He said, so he played me Paper or Plastic. And all I could do was bust out laughing. And I said, you know what? This song sounds so retro, and it kind of had like that Betty Wright feel to it, that I said, I just want to take this song back to the 70s. So I went out and got me a big Afro wig and some 70s clothes, and I did a video for it. It's, you know, it's not the world's greatest video, but you get the message. And all the song is telling fellas, look, I met you, I like you, but I can't keep paying all these bills. It's going to be paper or plastic. Tell me how you want to pay.
I love, hey, listen, you got to send me that video. I got to put it in my rotation. You got to send it to me.
Okay, I definitely will. I'll send you the link, you know, because it's up on YouTube. I'll send you the link so you can get the video.
Great.
But, you know, and so when that came out, I ended up going on the Southern Soul tour with him. And, you know, it was kind of like, for me, it reminded me of going back to the 70s, but just to see people still supporting a genre of music, like, and it's that music is a movement for those people, because it hasn't been tainted, you know, nobody's telling them, white folks, excuse me, are not coming in telling them how they're going to do their music. They're making records and they got fans. And like, for me to go to some of these, like one night we might be in a hole in the wall, little, you know, 300-seater. The next night we're at an arena and it's jam packed with all these Southern Soul artists and their fans coming out to see him. So for them to welcome me into that with the Paper and Plastic, you know, it just really felt good. And so after that, Big Rob was like, Margo, you're not a Southern soul artist. You can sing anything you want to sing. He said, but it's time for us to release another single. And the single is called What Do You Do When Love Don't Love You?
I like that. What do you do? So what do you do, Margo, when love don't love you?
For me, well, what do I? It's time to move on and get somebody else that can pay for paper or plastic.
I love it.
Kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, it's just like with anything. I mean, it's like people fall in love just like they fall out of love. And, for whatever reason, divorce is a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
And so for me, what do you do when love don't love you? As much as you try to, make it work, sometimes it just doesn't. And so you just got to move on and pick yourself up and, move on.
I made an observation. I had this conversation with somebody else because you were talking about the musical influences from the 70s and 80s. Personally, I still stand on the greatest era of music is the 70s. And if you ask me why, the 70s is the only era to where 20 years later that music came back in the 90s and was in a form of sample and hip hop beats. And you had from Dr. Dre, if you think about all the, Biggie, all the music, how many, I can't even tell you how many huge hits from the 90s had a 70s sample from George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, James Brown, Bootsy Collins, M2 made.
Right.
Man, come on, we could go on and on. Roy Ayers.
On and on and on. And what's so crazy is because like even with the 9.9 group, we came out and they signed us as an R&B group in the 80s. But, but the song that we had, it just happened to cross over and went pop. But for me, I didn't go in the studio and say, okay, I'm going to sing this so we can get a big crossover hit. I went in there and sang what I felt. And so for me, when you say samples, I remember like one day I was sitting down and I hear, it's Madonna had sampled the All of Me song on Into the Groove song. Get into the groove.
I remember.
She sampled the intro of All of Me for All of You.
And that was that really put Madonna on the map because what a lot of people don't understand. Pop radio didn't really break and make Madonna. It was black radio, and because black in the 80s,
I mean, look who she had producing them. Nile Rodgers from Chic.
Say that part right there, and I remember that.
You know what I'm saying? She knew to go to get what she had to get.
Yes, she did.
Right.
Before like a Virgin and all that stuff and Vogue. And before she was Vogue and she was into the groove, if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. And so like for me, like when I heard that remix and I heard the little sample of All of Me in there, I was like, okay, but yes, because I was talking to someone about Bruno Mars and what are they? Silk Sonic.
Silk Sonic.
It's like, to me, all they did is went back and all those 70s singing groups, you know what I'm saying? Like the Blue Magics and the, Stylistics and like all those people.
It's funny you say that. I just had this conversation. I had my man Lenny Williams and Shirley Jones. They got a new duet together. And I've been saying this, Margo, for forever. Bruno Mars, I should say Silk Sonic, they are the epitome. Her the same way, and I love her, but that vibe, Silk Sonic, it's like they went and found a producer that had a whole bunch of tracks that were unreleased. It's like, damn, this sounds good. I mean, I remember when Bruno Mars first came out, I'm like, wait a minute, did Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis produce this? Because dude looked like he trying to do Morris Day, and that's no shade. I'm just saying that it's amazing, everything, and you've seen it, everything, fashion and music. Everything goes full cycle, and you actually
like, to me, I gotta give him his credit because he went back, and that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Learn your music.
Yes.
He went back and studied that stuff.
Right.
Like even with Dr. Dre and them,
the Chronic.
Back before 9.9. We were background vocalists for a guy named Richard Dimples Fields. And Richard Dimples Fields had She's Got Papers on Me.
That was my cut.
In the song, he said, it's a doggy dog world.
Yeah.
And Snoop used that, Snoop Doggy Dog he used a little bit of that. So Dimples got a paycheck.
Oh, good.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, hopefully Madonna
But,
I hope Madonna cut you one for that. I was going to ask you, did Madonna go ahead and break y'all off for that?
You know what? I didn't write the song.
Oh, okay.
Dimples wrote the song, so hopefully they broke him off a little something, you know. But yeah, so, you know, like for me, like I said, just going back and knowing, you know, because my mother told me, like when I said I was going to be a singer, she said, okay, if you're going to be a singer, don't be a dumb singer. So she made me go back and listen to Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald and like all these, you know, Nancy Wilson. You know, I knew a little something about all these people, which for me in turn kind of, you know, because when I got signed to Capitol, this was one thing I didn't tell you, is like, for me around Boston, they used to call me Little Aretha Franklin because I sound so much like Aretha Franklin when I was a kid that I had to stop singing. And, you know, because I was afraid, I'm like, you know, I don't have an ID because people think of me as Little Aretha Franklin.
Exactly, yeah.
So like I said, when I listened to Sarah Vaughan and I listened to these different things, I was able to incorporate that into who I was going to be. And after a while, I stopped listening to singers and all I listened to was instruments. So I'm like, okay, what would a guitar sound like? What would a violin do? And I put all that into what I do now. And so when people hear me sing, that's Margo. You know, if they hear me singing background on somebody's record, oh, that's Margo.
Well, you got to tell us, I'm sure you're on tour. I don't know if you're doing spot dates, but on a tour. But before you do that, since you went back and you mentioned some of the true ancestors whose shoulders that we stand on, and I know as a singer, you mentioned some. So I just want to acknowledge this sister. Today is her birthday. You probably know who I'm going to mention. Before the world knew who she was Eleanor Fagan. Billie Holiday was born today, back in 1915. Rest in heaven, my sister. Incredibly talented. Just had a tragic life with the way that the government and the FBI hounded her because she released that song "Strange Fruit" after seeing seeing black people hanging from trees in the South.
Yeah.
And she released that song, and that's what the strange fruit was. Were the black people hanging from trees like fruit. So, and the government they harassed her to the very end of her life.
Yeah, every time she tried to get on stage and sing it, they rushed her, you know, like she was doing something wrong. And that goes back to you saying that, you know, people learning the history that they want us to know, not what we really should know, and all the things that black people have accomplished. And, you know, like, we wouldn't have open heart surgery if it weren't for a black person. We wouldn't have the traffic lights to stop at if it wasn't for a black person. We wouldn't know anything about doing our hair if it wasn't for a black woman coming up with products. You know, and you know, and you know, they talk about weaves, and it's like white women wear more weaves than black women, and a lot of people don't even realize that.
Man, please, you wouldn't have an economy, you wouldn't have America because cotton is what generated this country's wealth before anything, before, you know, cars and other industries, and now technology. Well, what technology is now, that's what the cotton industry was. You wouldn't even have the White House if you didn't have black folks, because black folks literally built the White House. But you can go back and binge watch my monologues, because I'm always bringing that social justice fire. But you have brought the fire today. Margo, thank you for the stories. I've enjoyed it. As a matter of fact, I call her my executive producer, my number one fan, along with a lot of other people in my chat room. So my mom, she's enjoying you. She said, tell her, amen. She's telling it. Mom.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm glad this was a show that's not just about music, you know. And, you know, because we need to know a lot more things, you know, and like for me, what I tell young people, learn your craft.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, don't just rely on what somebody told you, because like I said, I've been around, you know, 50 years.
Wow.
You know, I'm 62 years old, and God is still blessing me to do music on the level that I'm doing it. And I think it's because I haven't done anything to abuse the gift that he gave me. And I tell people this gift that he gave me wasn't for me to keep. It was for me to share. And if I didn't share it, it wouldn't be anything.
Wow, wow. And on top of it, black don't crack. Y'all can see that right there on camera, y'all. So let us know where we can follow you on social media. Are you on
Okay.
tour? And let us know where you're going to be on tour coming up, because I can't wait to
Okay,
see you.
so as far as tour, I'm not sure because I'm getting ready to actually go to Italy.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'll be gone for probably 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay.
And, just trying to go over and make some contacts over there. But people can get me on TikTok. It's Margo Thunder 985. And on Facebook, it's Margo Thunder. Instagram, Margo Thunder House 7. And my Twitter is just Margo Thunder 32. So, like I said, I tell people, especially young artists, I'll tell them, go in my DMs, ask me some questions. If there's something and I know that I can help you, Lord knows I had mentors. Like I said, I had the Betty Wrights, I had the Luther Vandrosses, and the Tavareses. Those guys were like my brothers growing up. Wow. So I had a chance to be mentored. And so for me, like when I work with younger artists, I try to give them as much information. I would love to collaborate with some of these younger artists so that they know old school is not bad school. Old school is good school.
Well, y'all younger artists, I know you watch the show. A lot of you all been on the show. You need to reach out to this sister because you can learn, and she can flat out sing. So, as a matter of fact, tell everybody, let them know where they can download those singles in the album of yours. I'm sure they can go to Apple Music or your website.
They can get it on all the music platforms like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, And so they can get all my music there. Any of the videos, they can go to YouTube, like the Feel the Fire video that I told you is up there, the Paper and Plastic, even going back to the 9.9s and the Sister Act movie, because when we did that video, everybody did it except for Whoopi, because she was working on Sister Act 2. And so, but the video, the way they shot it, it looks like I'm singing to her the way they shot the video. And so you can go to YouTube and find anything on Margo Thunder. And, I'm working on putting together a website now so that people can go and look at some of the fun things that I've done in the past and the things that I'm getting ready to do.
So speaking of that, so when you come back from Italy, all right, make sure you come back and you can stop at the Armani, House of Armani, and tell him he need to send me some suits and he need to pitch me over in America. So tell Mr. Armani to holler at his boy, the king of MCs, and I'll get him hooked up. But you have a home here on the Geno Jones Show. So when you come back and you got your new music or you're going on tour, come on back and
I would love to. And I like I said, I appreciate, I've been doing a lot of internet and, internet radio stations, and you guys are just showing so much love that I appreciate it and love, just sharing wisdom and getting wisdom from other people. So I would love to come back anytime.
All right, well, you got a home right here. So there you go. Enough, as my daughter taught me, she said, Dad, say less. That was a nice way of her telling me, you can shut up now, Dad. Okay, I heard you. I got you. So that's what the kids are saying now. So they taught me. They're like, no, say less means really don't say no more. Stop talking. But instead of saying shut up, they say it don't sound as bad. They say, so I'm going to say less. I'm just going to say thank you and say less. And looking forward to seeing you when you come back on the show. Thank you.
All right, now. Have a blessed one.
You too. All right. Margo Thunder. Oh, I love her energy and her spirit. Couldn't you see it and feel it coming through? And the sister can sing. So go check out her music on YouTube. That single, she's Paper or Plastic. You're going to see that in rotation. She's going to send me that video. And when her new music, the video to her latest song comes out, you're going to see that here. And then, of course, we're going to run it back and bring it back when she comes back from Italy across the big pond and talk about all the exciting things she's got coming up. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show. I come to you live Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Please subscribe to the Geno Jones channel right here on YouTube. Please share and like this and every episode. Go back and binge watch every episode. Send this episode and Margo Thunder to everybody, as Nelly would say, everybody or everybody that you know. Once again, I want to congratulate Associate Justice, that's what they call Supreme Court judges technically. Justice Kentanji Brown Jackson, she was confirmed by the United States Senate. That's why y'all got to vote in the midterms, because the president doesn't actually, he may pick who he wants, but the folks that put the person on the Supreme Court are the senators. So the senators got a lot of power. And if we get more senators that's got some common sense, like the 7 black people who are running to be U.S. senators, including State Representative Crystal Matthews here in South Carolina. Come on, y'all. You watch those that watch the show. I told you we got 7 people, 7 black men and women that are running to be the United States senators. You would make the racist head explode if 7 black people joined the United States Senate. And then police reform and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act and qualified immunity. You could hold like racist, rogue, killer cops. You could hold them accountable and you could sue their ass for just shooting through people's walls while they sleeping. Breonna Taylor, I could go on and on and on, but you can go back and binge watch all that episodes. So that's why voting is important. And this Supreme Court, okay? All right, because I'm telling you, you heard it here first. Come June, when this abortion case comes before the Supreme Court, and they repeal, they strike down Roe versus Wade, that's gonna allow all these states, because they already got laws on the books, including here in South Carolina, that as soon as the Supreme Court, as soon as they strike down Roe versus Wade, that will allow all these states to make abortion illegal. A full ban on abortion. How crazy is that? We'll talk more about that again, because I've talked a lot about it before. Shout out to Mr. Markel Bailey, the official barber and hairstylist for the Geno Jones Show. Check him out. Check out his work. Well, you can see his work right here, pal. But you can see his work on Instagram, Kelby Cutting Up, KELBECUTTINUP, Allie Jones, the official wardrobe consultant and stylist for the Geno Jones Show, along with Bruce Gage. Check out Allie Jones's, check out her collection, her drip, her fashions on our Instagram page. It's Lexi with 2 X's, LEXX_ is that line below. Lexi with 2 X's _ Nicole _ designs. And Bruce Gage, you can search Bruce Gage on Instagram. It's an Italian name, speaking of Italy, since Margo Thunder said she's going to Italy. Miglio D Mario Uomo, but it's MIGILIODIMARIOUOMO. MIGILIODIMARIOUOMO. I love each and every one of you. Mother, you know I love you more than life itself. Once again, I want to thank my guest, Margo Thunder. Check out her music on all your musical platforms where you can download music. Check out her videos right here on YouTube. When you get through binge watching my show, check it out. I can't wait to get her back on the show. Some incredible stories, man. Aretha Franklin and Luther telling you can sing. Man, you know you can sing. All right, tomorrow, we kick off the weekend, a Friday, we call it Friday edition of the Geno Jones Show, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right? 5:30 p.m. Central. One more thing before I get out of here, really. One phrase, 2 things. Thank you for watching, as always. Be blessed and pray for peace all over the world. See you Friday, live.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.